Hi everyone, and welcome back to Project Notes. Today is all about books. With the fall coming, there is a whole slate of new hand knitwear pattern books being released onto the market. Some have already come out as of this recording, but most are going to be coming out in, say, September, October. So I decided to do a whole video dedicated to these books so we can all learn and see what's going to be coming out soon. One note is that many of these books are published in the United States and Europe, but Project Notes is a global community. I wasn't able to cover every book that is going to be coming out, so if I missed one, please comment it down below with the author and the title so that we can learn about it, especially if you are in a different region or country in the world. Knitting is global, and so are the pattern books, and it's great to be able to know what's going to be released soon. That way we can all keep our eyes on it. This is also not an exhaustive list of all of the books that are going to be released in the fall. These were just the ones that piqued my curiosity, ones that I am going to buy, or ones that I have already purchased and that are in transit to me as we speak right now. Just like anybody commenting about books being released in their specific country or region, if I missed a book that you're really interested in and you want to share it with the Project Notes community, let us know down below. Leave the title, leave the author name so we can all look it up and we can make sure we support print books, ebooks of hand knit patterns globally. The first book on my list is No Fear Sock Knitting. Take the worry out of sock knitting with this beginner's guide by Denise DeSantis. This summer, I discovered my sock knitting mojo, and part of that journey, I checked out several books just about sock knitting, and in my research, I found out that this one would be coming out in the fall. I have purchased the book. I do not have it with me for this video though, but it is really a great title for those who have never sock knit before, those who might have fear like it says in the title. My fear with sock knitting was I didn't know if I could knit small circumferences at a consistent gauge comfortably, but she really spells it out in this book while also sharing some unique patterns that you can ultimately turn into your own sock knitting recipes. Basically, if you can knit a tube, get to the heel, turn it, and get to your insole, you are good to go. And in this book, they take all of the fear out of sock knitting and turn it into a step-by-step approachable process for knitters at every skill level. This is one book that I highly recommend, and I hope you give it a try too. Laine magazine is continuing their series of 52 weeks. We all know there's 52 weeks of socks, 52 weeks of shawls, 52 weeks of easy knits, and this fall they will be releasing 52 weeks of chunky knits. This book will be released in paperback on November 4th, 2025, and it's going to have 52 patterns of sweaters, cardigans, slipovers, vests, accessories, and then even some home decor based on the description here. Another thing to note is that the weights of yarn will vary, so it'll include worsted, Aran, chunky knits, but it will also include different weights of yarn held together. So imagine maybe 3 or 4 strands of fingering weight yarns held together to make one chunky knit. I don't know which patterns those would be. I'm just assuming that's where some of those knits would go. I am most interested in their accessories, their hats, their beanies, their mittens, all of that, especially as the holidays come, because they might make some really quick, easy gift knits. So keep an eye out for Laine magazine's 52 weeks of knit. Now that I'm thinking about it, I have chunky weight yarn in my stash. It is from Lion brand yarns. I have a chunky weight. I don't remember the line's name, but it's 80% acrylic, 20% wool. So I'm gonna set that aside so I can make something from this book. It's in a really cool greeny colorway. So just keep watching to see what I whip up with that, especially after this book is released. The next book release comes from Chantal Miyagashima, known as Knitatude online. She has a huge online presence, especially on Instagram, and I love following her and seeing her design. This fall, she is going to be releasing Sweater Success, From Cast On to Closet, Learn to Fearlessly Knit Pullovers and Cardigans. This will be released in ebook and paperback formats on November 4th, 2025. So in this book, it says that there are going to be 6 sweater design patterns all the way from start to finish, all the way from cast on, swatching, choosing yarn, all of that. If you're new to sweater knitting, this might be something for you to check out. Sweater knitting, to me, I've been doing it so long, it's almost second nature, but there are things, tricks, and techniques in sweater knitting that a designer like her has the experience with, and can explain in a way that might make it approachable for somebody who is new to this. Things that will be covered in the book include comprehensive instructions for knitting a sweater step by step. That's what you need, especially if you're new. Stylish patterns with expert guidance throughout. Customization tips and techniques. You know, sometimes when you make a sweater, sometimes you want to make it longer, sometimes you want to make it shorter, sometimes you want to change the arm length, the neck design, all of that. This book, I can't say 100% for certain because I don't have it in front of me, but it's may cover some of those bases, and it might be worth a try just to check out. The thing about this book that piques my interest, especially being a little bit more advanced when it comes to just basic sweater construction, is the section on care and storage advice. That is one thing I don't think we talk about enough in the online knitting community, is how do we actually care for these garments that we put 40, 80 hours into, sometimes more than that, to make sure that they last our whole lifetime. We talk a lot about patterns, we talk a lot about yarns and weights and textures, but I am interested to read more about her tricks and tips for making sure that what we make lasts us much longer and that we can care for these items. I've kept my eye on this book release all summer long, and I'm excited for it to finally come out. Knitting the U.S.A, 50 easy to follow designs for beautiful beanies inspired by each state in America, is going to be released in hardcover and in ebook formats on October 21st, 2025. I had the opportunity to visit Savannah, Georgia this year. I'll put a link either in the description box below or somewhere around me. But while I was there, I started seeing on Instagram the beanie pattern for the Georgia hat with the Georgia peaches. I thought it was a one-off pattern, so I was really excited to see it and buy it, but then I found out it came as part of a book. I don't know if the patterns have individually been released yet, but I decided to hold off on purchasing it until I could get my hands on the book to see what the other 50 states look like. 50 state patterns, that's a lot of patterns, and it's also really good for this time of year because it's perfect for gift knitting as we get into the holiday season. You might have a friend or a family member with certain pride in their state, and this is something, one of the patterns in this book is one that you could knit for them. I haven't seen too many of them, but one of the ones that they feature is Maine. So you get the lighthouse, you get the ocean, the clouds, the green ground, the flowers. I just think it's so creative, and with 50 states represented in this book, there is so much that can be made. I'm looking forward to this one. Let me know if you decide to pick this up when it is released. Peter Rabbit Baby Knits, 20 knitting patterns for clothes and accessories inspired by the tales of Beatrix Potter by Debbie Bliss. This book will probably be released by the time this video is posted. Its official release date is going to be Tuesday, August 26th. Sorry, the official release date is going to be Tuesday, August 26th, 2025, in both paperback and ebook format. What I love about this book is how adorable the little knits are. If you have a baby, a small child in your life, you know someone who is about to have a baby, or you're into gift knitting for children, This is going to have a lot of beautiful patterns inspired by the classic tales of Peter Rabbit. There are 20 patterns in it, and just looking at the cover, because I don't have a copy to see inside, there seems to be like duplicate stitch to make Peter and different carrots, both on blankets and on sweaters, little mini cowls to keep little ones warm. And then the pattern I am most interested in is the hat pattern. From what I can see here, it looks like it's all garter stitch in the round, and just a little cute little topper for, you know, a little baby's head. I love baby knits. I think they're so sweet. I think they're so adorable, and little booties as well. So if you're interested in children's knits, baby knits, this is gonna be a good one. I will keep my eye on it to see when it comes out, and definitely I will be keeping an eye out for this adorable bunny hat pattern. I love knitting big shawls, but sometimes I want to make something a little bit smaller. That's why Knitting Cowlettes, Clever Techniques for Making Custom Mini Cowls to Elevate Any Outfit by Sophia Talley caught my interest. This book will be released on September 16th, 2025 in hardcover and ebook formats. What's special about this design book is there are 23 unique patterns for all ages, baby all the way to adults. And one of the special things about Cowlettes is you get to knit something to express yourself without putting in the long-term commitment you might put into a body length shawl. So when you have like a coat on during the winter, you just pop it on, you might have a pop of color or design or a texture that can really feature your personality. Another thing that I like about this book is the author mentions giving a template so that knitters can make their own cowls. So you get 23 patterns, but you also get a template that you can use in your own designs with your own weights, to your own dimensions. And I think that takes this book a step beyond, because it's not just the patterns, but it's also empowering knitters to design their own. I bet you anything there are some single skein projects. Now, we all have maybe one or two or many more, like me, single skeins of yarn, and I can see myself knitting a couple of the designs in here with that yarn, and just making something unique, interesting, and different. Over the last year, maybe a little bit longer, I've been talking to my husband about making him a sweater. He's really excited about it. I've made him a few in the past that he still wears, but when I show him the patterns that I think, you know, he'd be interested in, his response has been lukewarm to tepid. And that's where this book comes in. I think this is gonna be a book that we can choose a pattern from so that I can finally get on his sweater. It is Nordic Sailors and Fisherman Sweaters, Modern Knitwear Inspired by Historical Patterns by Lotte Rohbeck and Gitte Werner Jensen. This will be released in hardcover and as an ebook on October 28th, 2025. I had to read that a second time. You'll notice on the book cover that all of the models are men, but this book, you can make the sweaters in this for anyone. What I do like about this book and what is attracting me to it is earlier this year, I shared some of my goals for knitting goals for the year, and spoiler alert, I haven't met half of them. It just hasn't happened. It hasn't worked out that way. I'm a bit of a magpie with knitting. I'll see one thing, say I'll make it, and then I'll see another thing and just want to make that instead. But what it does is these patterns are like refocusing me, because one of the things I wanted to do was to make a historically inspired or a historic pattern sweater. These are historic garments from Nordic culture, and so there are a lot of chunky cables, stripes, color work, really interesting hats as well. So I'm really inspired to make something for him from this. I just got to make sure he's interested in it as well too. You know, the gift recipient should like it as well. But it also helps me reach my goal of knitting a historic or a historic inspired pattern this year. I want to mention too, in the description, the designers state that these patterns are designed for advanced beginners all the way to advanced knitters. So it may not be the most beginner friendly book, but my attitude is, you know, if there's something in here that you want, you should give it a try. And if you make a mistake, just rip it out and try it again. That's how we learn. But you may need some more tips and tricks in your knitting bag before tackling some of these patterns. And if you don't have those, maybe this is a good opportunity to tackle some of those in the form of like a fun hat pattern or a sweater. This is one that I'm going to definitely be on the lookout for when it is released. I'm excited for it because the sweaters look amazing. Embroidery and embellishment on hand knits are having a moment in 2025. That's why Flower Knitting 100 Flower and Fruit Motifs by Hiroko Ibuki caught my attention, because it really does not just fall into the trend, but exemplifies it, because it gives 100 unique patterns. So you can play with swatches with it, see what you like. But if you are into sweater design, you can then use some of those to create and embellish your own garments. So it seems like it's going to be really approachable. And if you're interested in learning something new, especially when it comes to embellishing your garments, this might be a good one for you. I don't see too many preview pictures of this book online, but just on the cover, from what I can see, there's a bit of stranded color work. There are puff stitches, there are gathers, there's some lace work in there. It's really unique. And if you are interested in learning more about different techniques to bring out your knit designs through embellishments, this might be the book for you. She does flowers, she does fruit, she does leaves, and they all look very cute. So give Flower Knitting by Hiroko Ibuki a try if you're interested in learning more how to embellish your knits. This book caught my eye because it's a unique way of skills building for knitters. And this is Learn to Knit in 50 Squares, a 2-in-1 knitting course and blanket pattern by Anna Pantelis. It will be released in paperback on October 7th, 2025. What I found interesting about this book is it's basically a sampler that you can turn into a blanket, but it's a sampler of different skills and techniques. Basically, knitters will be presented with 50 square patterns that they can use to practice different techniques. And then once those 50 squares, or however many squares they want to knit up, are done, they can then sew those together and then make a blanket. So maybe some simple garter stitch, maybe some simple stockinette stitch, maybe some simple chart reading, all the way up to maybe some more advanced techniques. And every square along the way introduces a new technique to build a knitter's skill. I like the idea of this a lot. And it's not just for beginning knitters, it's for any knitter who wants to try something new, or maybe wants to have an Afghan style blanket with all the different tricks and techniques they have to show off, but also to make it usable for them in their daily lives by making it into a blanket. This one is very interesting to me. Let me know if this is one that you think you might pick up in the fall. The final book is not actually a book, but it is a set of cards. It is the Doodle Knitting Card Deck, 200 Mix and Match Motifs by Jamie Lomax. This is going to be released on October 14th, 2025. I love Jamie Lomax's card decks. I haven't purchased one yet. In fact, I saw one when I visited a yarn shop in Savannah, Georgia this summer, but I decided not to pick it up because I wanted to pick up a prize for a Project Notes subscriber. So instead of buying a Doodle Deck for myself, I went ahead and did that. But a Doodle Deck is on my list to buy. And what a Doodle Deck is, it is a card, several cards in a pack that are basically mix and match color work designs. So you might have a card with a leaf motif on it, color work leaf, and then you might have a card with maybe, you know, kitty cats on it, and you can mix and match those to make your own unique design from the Doodle Deck. Just looking at the cover, it has leaves, it has animals, little penguins, polar bears, sunglasses, flowers. I think there's a hot dog, some ice cream. So this seems like one of her multi-season decks. She does have decks that are for particular seasons, like she has like a summer deck. Her fall October deck with all of the Halloween themes on them, I personally love and would love to purchase, but I might purchase something more like this so it's more versatile for me to use throughout the entire year instead of just having one deck for one season. The other cool thing about the Doodle Decks is you can mix and match the Doodle Decks themselves. So if I have a Doodle Deck, if I buy this Doodle Deck and say there was a color work motif or several from her Halloween one, I can mix and match those together to make my own unique design. If you have a Doodle Deck or have experience with a Doodle Deck, let us know below. I love the Doodle Decks and I'm excited to finally play with one this fall. Thank you all for hanging out with me today while I shared some of the different knitting books that are coming out this fall into the early winter. Let me know down below if you have any plans to buy or check out any of the books down below. And like I said at the very beginning, you know, if I missed one, I'm sure I did, let me know, but down below, what books are you looking forward to? It can be knitting, it can be crochet. Really, I'm gonna open it up to any craft books worldwide so we can have a nice list of books that we can all draw from so we can get ready for the prime time season of knitting in the Northern Hemisphere, which is the fall and the winter. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. You guys don't know how much that means to the channel, how much it spreads the word about Project Notes and the community we have going on over here. I'll see you all in the next video. Have a wonderful day. Bye.